So by the time I was 10 years old, I had already learned something dangerous, and that was how to disappear. Not physically, but emotionally. I learned how to sit in a room full of people and feel invisible. I learned how to act like everything was fine when in my mind it was screaming that it wasn't. And I learned that if I was hurting, no one was coming to check on me, so I might as well just keep it to myself. And so what I learned was that when a kid feels invisible for long enough, they don't just accept it. They start looking for ways to make that feeling permanent. For some kids, it's acting out to get attention, and I definitely did a lot of that. For some kids, it's just shutting down, and I did some of that as well. And also, what I discovered was huffing shoe cleaner in a Ziploc bag until I passed out. And I remember doing that around 5th or 6th grade, which looking back in hindsight, that's crazy. You're like 10, 11, 12 years old. But I learned I didn't do it because it was fun. I did it because for those few moments, everything stopped. The thoughts, the loneliness, the feeling that I wasn't enough. For those few seconds, I finally felt nothing. And I wasn't chasing a high, I was chasing silence. A break from the noise in my head, the emotions I didn't know how to process, and the reality that I didn't want to face. Now, looking back, I can see I wasn't just reckless for the sake of being reckless. I was in pain. I didn't have the necessary tools to deal with it at that time. And that's the part that a lot of people don't understand. See, self-destructive behavior is not about enjoyment. It's about survival. It's about trying to find a way to cope when nothing else is working. And that's really why I'm sharing this, because if you've ever found yourself numbing or escaping or making decisions that you don't fully understand, and there's a reason for it, and once you can finally figure out that reason, you can break free from the things that have held you back or from the things that are causing this self-destructive behavior. But see, I didn't understand it at the time. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm traumatized, so I need to cope. I wasn't telling myself, I feel abandoned, so I need to escape. I was just doing what my brain told me to do. And that's the thing about self-destruction is it's not a choice, it's a reaction. You see, when pain is too much to process, your brain tries to find a way to make it go away. And when your emotions feel overwhelming, the brain searches for an escape. And when a kid doesn't learn how to cope with emotions in a healthy way, the brain creates its own coping mechanisms. And for me, that coping mechanism was dissociation. And so what dissociation is it's your brain's way of checking out when reality is too painful. It's when your mind just disconnects from your emotions, your body, or the present moment. Some people dissociate by daydreaming. Some people dissociate by, TV. Some people dissociate with drugs and alcohol and reckless behavior. And me, I learned how to dissociate by knocking myself unconscious momentarily, as ridiculous as that sounds. But that's when the real danger starts, because once you learn that you can escape reality, you look for bigger and better ways to do it. So by 13, I had moved past that and I got into stealing. At first it was small, but then it became a habit. But not because I needed things and not because I was necessarily a bad kid, but I needed to feel something. And this is one of those things that I only discovered looking back in hindsight as to the reason I was doing all this. And the reason I discovered was so that I could feel something. Because I had spent years just feeling just empty and numb and shut down. So I started chasing anything that could give me, a rush. And then one night, me and a couple friends of mine, we took this even further. I was 13 years old, and we had the idea to borrow a car. Now, I do say borrow because we had every intention of going out joyriding and bringing the car back and parking it exactly where we found it, like nothing happened. But I had the brilliant idea to go to the store and steal things and take it back to school and sell them. Well, we got caught, we got arrested, and we got taken to the police station waiting to be picked up by our parents. And here's the part that I found out should have scared me, but it didn't. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't afraid, I wasn't angry, I was just numb, because by that point I had already stopped caring. And, unfortunately, that's what self-destruction does. It doesn't just make you reckless, it doesn't just put you in bad situations. It literally makes you stop giving a shit about what happens next. And looking back, I can see what was happening. Doing the little huffing thing, that wasn't about fun, that was about escape. Stealing wasn't about obtaining things, it was about the thrill of feeling something. And getting arrested wasn't about being reckless, it was just about not caring what happened to me anymore. But I wasn't a bad kid, I was just a kid that didn't know how to process pain. And that's the part that people really get wrong about self-destruction. It's not a choice, it's a survival instinct, especially at that age. It's not about trying to or wanting to ruin your life. It's about trying to escape the emotions that actually feel like they're ruining you. And it's also not about being broken. It's about not knowing how to handle the weight that you're carrying. And that's why so many people stay stuck in these self-destructive habits and cycles, because that becomes their identity. Their coping mechanisms literally become their identity. And so if you remove those self-destructive behaviors from your life, subconsciously you don't know who you are anymore, because your identity is wrapped up in these behaviors. But here's the truth. You don't have to stay numb. Here's the truth. You don't have to keep repeating that same cycle over and over. You can face what you've been running from, and you can come out stronger on the other side of it. So if you've been stuck in self-destructive habits, whether it's addiction, whether it's risky behavior, whether it's numbing yourself with distractions, it's not because you're weak. No matter what anybody says, it's not because you're weak. It's because your brain has been trying to protect you the only way that it knows how. But the same brain that created those coping mechanisms can also unlearn them. So here's how you need to do that. Step one you need to do is you need to recognize the pattern that you're consistently putting yourself in. Because awareness is the first step to change. If you're not even aware of what the problem is, how could you ever solve it? So the first step is becoming aware of what that pattern is. The second step is stop shaming yourself. You weren't doing this to ruin your life. You were doing this to survive. And that's the misconception that people who don't understand this have. They're quick to judge somebody for their self-destructive behaviors, habits, or addictions, but they don't understand the reason that you're doing it. You're not doing it to ruin your life. You're not doing it to ruin other people. It's literally your brain has already created these patterns that it keeps playing to protect you. The third step, the third thing that you need to do is you really need to start questioning your urges. So the next time you feel, the pull to escape or fall back into some self-destructive behavior, you need to really ask yourself, what am I running from? What am I trying to numb from? What am I hiding from? What am I scared to face? And it's a deep question. But if you sit with yourself long enough, you'll figure out what it is. In the next episode, we'll break down how self-destructive behavior leads to addiction and why so many people fall into the trap of using substances to escape the pain that they never processed. Because addiction is not about the drug. That's the other misconception. It's about what you're running from. And next time, we'll talk about exactly what I was running from. So if this message resonated with you, hit the subscribe button or hit the bell icon so you'll know when I drop the next video in this series. I thank you for subscribing and leaving comments. I appreciate all that. And if you know somebody that needs to hear this or any other message on this channel, do them a favor and send it to them. You never know who might be struggling in silence. Also, you can connect with me on Instagram. It's JTread, JTREAD. Or you can check out the website. My blog I'll be updating pretty soon. Get some new stuff on there. resolvecollective.com. You can click all the links below. I appreciate you. Thank you. And as always, make good choices. You got this. Have a great day.